What is up, everyone? As you can tell, we are talking about Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 266, where our guy Megumi, he's definitely going through it this week. So, let's take a look at the chapter. As usual, we'll give everyone a few minutes to hop in the stream, but I'm excited to talk about it. It's definitely a weird chapter, to say the least. And then, of course, as every other week, we'll take a look at other chapters. One Piece, maybe some Undead Unluck, maybe some Kagurabachi. We'll leave it up to chat. Yo, what's good, Justin? Pleasure to have you. Always good to see you. What's going on, everybody? One second. Oh, shit. I totally missed it. For all of my fellow Witch Watch fans, we finally got an anime announcement. Holy shit. Shout out to my guy Edens over on Twitter for sharing that post with me. I would not have seen it until much later. The funny thing is I was reading a bunch of Witch Watch yesterday because I need to catch back up. So that's coming in the spring. What else is coming spring 2025? Yo, what's good, Edens? We were just talking about you, man. I just saw your message. That's so funny that you just hopped in. Do we have any idea? Yeah, the art style looks flat. Kind of. Maybe it's the color scheme. I don't know. I'm not gonna look at the trailer right now. We can look at it later. I do want to start with the JJK chapter. All right, we shared on Twitter. We freaked out. We fangirled over Witch Watch. We'll give everyone a couple more minutes, and then we'll talk about JJK. Before we really look at the chapter, how do people feel about this week's chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen? Generally. Fire Force is spring 2025. So Fire Force and bro, it's gonna be pure comedy gold this spring. Hope Fire Force final season has the same voice actor for. Yeah, interesting. Top 3 chapters of the year. I loved it. I definitely like this chapter. Actually, let me go back on Twitter because I want to see. Just for reference, I have already read the chapter. But we're going to look at it again anyway. I want to see. I saw Broken Ronin tweeted about it. Where are we? So people are saying, so somebody said Megumi has now contributed more to fighting Sukuna than Hikari without a body. I have mixed feelings about this. But why don't we take a look at the chapter so I can explain. So, although let me look at chat real quick. Yeah, I've definitely liked the Yuji versus Sukuna fight. It's making the later chapters of Jujutsu Kaisen very engaging. Yeah, Fenrir, we're going to talk about that because I feel like there's a lot to pull apart there or take away. All right. So we're on chapter 260. Now, by the way, I have to say, I wasn't crazy about how this chapter opened because it's kind of a non sequitur. Because if you go back to 265, it's just Sukuna flipping his lid. Although, now that I've said this, I want to confirm. So 265. Yeah, the last panel of chapter 265 is Sukuna saying, and then before your severed head, I'll kill all those humans you prize so much. That's the last chapter of, or last panel of 265. 266, it cuts right to Megumi saying, you've done enough. So there's like, it was just a weird transition, personally. It was like this very aggressive panel to all of a sudden we're having this like low, calm, like very low energy chat with a completely different character. So it was like I had to like go back and be like, did I miss a chapter? Did I miss a page in the last chapter? It's not bad, but it was just an awkward transition. Also, hello to Oriel Getnet. Apologize for murdering your name. First time in the chat. Hello from Germany. Well, hello. I was just watching a video on Germany earlier today. There's a lot of cosmic poetry in this stream today with Witch Watch and Edens and Germany. Funny how that works. Also, hello at Johnny. So, yeah, the opening to this chapter is definitely weird, but let's talk about it. So we have Megumi, and he says, you've done enough. I wanted to create a world that wouldn't expose Sumiki to injustice and unhappiness. If I couldn't do that, then I at least wanted to preserve our fragile lifestyle as much as I could while I was still alive. Cooking food, gazing at the laundry and the sun, seeing Sumiki off as she walked side by side with someone like you in the afternoon light. Then I think about how happy I was. So this is a great chapter right away for Megumi fans because it does a lot to flesh out his character. Not that, you know, it says anything new about his character, but it's a huge insight into his sort of motivation. And also, side note, not that this is revolutionary, but it is interesting. I got JoJo's vibes, like with of course I can never remember names. The Emerald Splash guy, and then Okuyasu from Part 4. It's just like very weird vibes, like romance vibes. See Sumaki off as she walked side by side with someone like you in the afternoon light. It was just like Megumi's like very weird when it comes to, or not weird, just quirky, I guess, when it comes to romance. He's like, what kind of girl do I like? Someone like my sister, I guess. And then, who would I want my sister to date? Someone like Yuji. So kind of a, I get what he's saying, but he always has a weird way of putting it. So he says, you've done enough. So then it cuts to Yuji, and he says, Gramps' sickness started as lung cancer. He rejected treatment early on because the side effects were so harsh. I'm strong, so I didn't understand the idea of refusing treatment for that reason. Euthanasia, too. That was a concept completely foreign to me. I might have been able to endure his treatment, but he must have been suffering. But after going through what we went through at Jujutsu High and thinking of those horrors as being never-ending, I've come to understand how people like Gramps felt like when confronting harsh reality. So, I guess I have no right to tell you that you have to live, Fushiguro. So, I'm kind of confused about this part of the chapter. I mean, all of that made sense. But I'm curious how he's communicating with Megumi. Because I know he's sort of made contact with him before. But especially right now in this moment, it feels awkwardly timed. One, because of the transition from the last chapter. And two, because like he's in the middle of fighting Sukuna. And he should be focusing on that. And somehow he has the time and energy to sort of resonate with Megumi's soul. So I'm kind of confused by this part of the chapter as far as timing goes. Kakuin. Thank you. Kakuin. Megumi is just an awkward dude. Yeah, that's kind of the conclusion I'm coming to. Anyway, I think that's the best part of the chapter. But obviously, this fight starts back up with renewed motivation. Now Sukuna is not just kind of like, half-assing it. Now he's like, well, now I'm just going to murder you because you pissed me off. Which is very in character with Sukuna and also consistent with a lot of the build-up in this fight. Because Sukuna has been like, I fight because I feel like it. And I hate this Yuji kid because, he's different. And he's actually like, pure and, feels like he can't be beat. And then the fact that he comes right out and says, oh yeah, no, I'm going to beat you. Now Sukuna's like, well, F you. Like, now I'm going to kill you. Megumi shipping Itadori with his sister. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it feels like such an awkward time to say that. Anyway, so the two of them fight. Sukuna says something about Gojo rehabilitating his brain with with curse technique. Hollow wicker basket. Sukuna is able to offset weak output by continuing palm signs, so he could keep fighting without the domain overpowering him. So the two of them are fighting, and it's also worth mentioning that they're also still in Yuji's domain. At least it seems to be the case. Um, Sukuna says, even I'm surprised at how furious I get when someone looks down on me. Like you with your pity. I can't wait to get payback on your beloved humans. So even if Yuji is technically losing this fight, he definitely landed a blow on Sukuna. Because nobody else could piss Sukuna off like this. And only Yuji was able to get him, like, really pissed off. So then we continue, and we're back to Yuji and Megumi. And it's Megumi as a kid. He says, what's with that look? Yuji says, it's lonely without you, Fushiguro. So I'm assuming that while he's fighting Sukuna, he's like resonating with Megumi's soul. I'm not really sure how he's doing that. I know he kind of did it before in earlier chapters, but I'm not so sure how he's doing that now. But while he's doing this, Malevolent Shrine got wasted. Can't use his 10 Shadows technique. So Megumi is actively blocking him from using 10 Shadows. So the boy, he's talking about Yuji. Yuji's dismantle has breathed life back into the soul immersed in the bath. So basically what Sukuna is saying is Yuji has somehow brought back Megumi. Even if he's not like actively back. He has sort of revitalized his soul. So now the two of them are fighting. Hollow Wicker Basket isn't going to last, and as soon as he goes to attack Sukuna again, his arm sort of breaks apart. I'm not so sure what that was. Did Sukuna's cursed technique replenish? That's Gojo Sensei's burnt out cursed technique reset, domain expansion. And then we cut to a finger, and Yuji is missing 2 fingers. So this part I was confused about too. Maybe everyone in the chat can sort of explain what happened, because I am very unclear with what happened here. I'm sure it'll get explained in the next chapter, but for now I'm like, what? What are we reading? Also, hello, Party Jams. We're looking at JJK chapter 266. If you haven't read it yet, we are talking about the ending, so spoiler alert. But we're talking about the very end of the chapter, because I'm kind of confused what happened with Yuji losing 2 fingers, and then they cut to what appears to be one of Sukuna's fingers. Let's see what we got. Yuji is missing 2 fingers. One was, of course, eaten by Megumi, but the other is what we see at the end. It isn't a true Sukuna finger since the last one was eaten by Rika. Oh, I see. I don't remember that happening, but I guess that makes sense. Sukuna says his TS stopped working when Maharoga died. This implies Big Daddy Raga, interesting vocabulary here, is the center of the technique himself. What would happen to Merger Authority if they killed Sukuna? I'm not really sure. Again, there's a lot of things I'm not entirely sure about right now. How am I confused? Because I wasn't really sure. I didn't really know what was going on with Yuji Saiyans, to be honest. Um, like, what were the gauntlets? Because did they ever explain that? 10 shadows, thank you. What ever happened? Let me see. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Did we ever get an explicit, the gauntlets were to hide Yuji's fingers missing? So now I'm confused then. It was all a setup. So I missed something then, because as I remember it, he just sort of, like, the gauntlets kind of just came out of nowhere when he first hopped into the fight with, what's his name, the lawyer guy. And they had just kind of been there. So I thought it was something he got in his training. Am I just totally confusing? I forgot reading leaks. Did they ever state the scissors technique was explicitly all Yuji? I have no idea. Yeah, so I'm not really sure what happened. I'll have to do some homework, I guess. I don't know. But overall, I think this was a good chapter. It was great characterization for Megumi. The only thing I'll say is so it's interesting how Yuji handles Megumi in this chapter, because on the one hand, he does want him to come back, but on the other hand, he does recognize that the world they live in is pretty messed up, and that whatever Megumi is going through right now, he might not want to come back. And he compares it to his grandpa, who was dealing with his sickness, and he puts it as like harsh reality, right? So it's interesting how he words it. He says, I have no right to tell you that you have to live. So he doesn't not tell him that he wants him to come back, but he also doesn't say it. So he kind of says it without saying it. So on the one hand, it's a fairly mature response, but on the other hand, I kind of wish he would say it. Only a true bro would say, I can't ask you to live. I would tend to disagree. If I had a friend who, was going through it, I'd be like, hey man, I want you around. Whatever you need, just let me know. I'll do it. But on the other hand, I do appreciate the maturity of his stance here. Not sure if any utility, seems like it was just for his trick. Might be a cursed tool to make punches hit harder. Okay. Because that was the thing. I didn't really remember them doing anything. Yeah, I do like his self-awareness. It shows that he's matured from like the meathead that we met at the very beginning. Do I have any other questions? No, I feel like I need to go back to the very beginning of this fight. So specifically, like right after he fought, not Hikari, who's the electric user, the one with the long hair. Kajima, however you say his name. I can't remember how to say his name. Kajima, right? Isn't that how you say his name? Like right when Yuji stepped into the fight, because it is clearly the case that I am forgetting a lot of stuff here. Because as far as I remember it, like, his gloves never really did anything. Yeah, that's the thing. I need to go back and reread to when the Yuji team sort of jumped in, because it feels like I am either forgetting a lot of stuff or I missed a bunch of stuff. Notice Megumi didn't help at all during the fight and only locked in now after being told by Yuji he's allowed to die. Bro kept his usual self. Yeah. I think we need to be careful when we read this part. I'm not really sure that's where Megumi's head is at. I think he's just kind of going through it. I do see the fact that he's definitely lost right now. He's like, all I really wanted to do was protect my sister. And now that my sister's gone, like, what would I even do? Which is why I feel kind of weird about this part of the chapter, because Yuji's like, yeah, no, I guess you have no reason to live. Which, again, he also doesn't say. That's not what he says. He just kind of says, oh, yeah, no, I get it. It's pretty rough right now, so I get it. I will say this. I think the maturity of this moment isn't what he says. It's what he doesn't say. Because if this were another manga, like, say, My Hero, he would say something like, well, you have all your friends and blah, 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 blah. And so you should live on for your friends. But I think because Yuji is as mature as he is, he recognizes that there's a time and place, and right now isn't the time to really do that. So I do agree. I think kind of the power of this moment is the fact that he said, hey, I get it. Kashimo, that's what I was trying to say. Thank you. Not Kajima. Kashimo. So I want to go back and reread everything after Kashimo steps in. Feel free to send questions my way. Thank you, Party Jams. I appreciate that. I want to look at the flashbacks with training and see if he was wearing gauntlets when they were planning. I don't remember him wearing the gauntlets. That's the thing. Like, he's had this thing going on with his hands for, like, what's it been? Like 50 chapters, 40 chapters? And I feel like nothing's really kind of come of them. So I think it'll make more sense next week. But for now, I'm like, what just happened? What do you think Yuji's domain expansion is? I don't know. It appears to be this thing of bringing Sukuna into his memories, and it seems to have to do something with memories. Because if you remember, anytime Yuji has really fought someone besides Mahito, like when he fought his brother, he altered his memories. When he fought Todo, he altered his memories. And now when he used his domain expansion, it had to do with Yuji's memories. So it clearly has something to do with memories. We just don't know what yet, like what the specific rules are. Because every domain expansion has some explicit rule or ability. We just don't know what's going on with Yuji's quite yet. But we do have a better idea. It's clearly something with memories. When Gojo and the others were fighting to save him, he never helped. Now Yuji says you can die, and immediately Megumi gets active. Again, that's not really what he's saying. He's not saying, hey, it's okay if you go away forever. What he's saying is, I don't have a right to tell you to live. It's an important distinction. It's essentially the same, but fundamentally different. Because it's more focusing on Yuji and what he can do, not so much Megumi. What's going on, Xenolith? Pleasure to have you. Good to see you. I think the context is if he gives up, Megumi is going to be the vessel for Sukuna's death or not. Someone is going to be fit here. That's another point to consider. I think it's not so much Megumi's like going to go away forever, but right now Sukuna is using Megumi's soul. So, yeah. If they defeat Sukuna, then Megumi goes away. That's kind of the concern. But there's also the thing of like, if they somehow take Megumi out of there, then Sukuna's going to try and take over somebody else, I guess. I'm trying to think if I have any more questions about this chapter. I guess the only other question I have for everybody, let's see. Yeah, we're only 30 minutes. The other question I have for everybody is, do we think anyone else is going to step in now? Because it's been Yuji Sukuna for a hot minute. Excuse me. Megumi sort of stepped in now. And now it's Yuji versus Sukuna. We have this sort of tease of the Sukuna finger. Do we think someone else is going to step in to help Yuji fight Sukuna now? Or is it going to be just Yuji Sukuna one-on-one? Not every domain. If I don't care about the series, I care about the series. I don't know, like, why you're talking like that. Like, I enjoy JJK. Just because I don't remember every single thing about JJK doesn't mean I don't care about the series. You're welcome to leave the stream if you don't like my level of expertise. Maki will step in for the 4th time before Hikari ever does. I will say I'm dying for Maki to jump in again, because I feel like we haven't gotten quite enough of Maki. Yuji still had his normal hands in chapter 225. Okay, that's a good place marker. So that's what I'm saying, is the hands didn't come out until he teamed up with the lawyer. And I feel like after that point, they were just sort of an aesthetic thing. Next week is the climax, so I think it's over for anyone else to step in. Yeah, kind of. No, I'm not criticizing the chapter at all. I'm just saying that I personally am kind of lost. I'm not saying that's Gege's fault. It's a me thing. I am totally admitting that. it's just one of those things where, like, I've been reading it weekly for 2-3 months, so I need to go back and reread everything. And I also acknowledge that I'm very certain that next week it'll make a lot more sense. That being said, my only criticism, like I said in the beginning of the chapter, is I feel like it's sort of an awkward transition from the last chapter to this one, because it goes from Sukuna being all pissed off to Megumi. It's not the worst transition in the world, but it is kind of an awkward one, where, at least in my case, I had to sort of go back and be like, was Megumi in the last chapter? I was like, no, just cuts to Sukuna shouting and then immediately to Megumi. So it's kind of a non sequitur. But other than that, I think it's a great chapter. I do think, judging by kind of the response I can see in chat, I think a lot of people are going to misinterpret Yuji's stance on Megumi and Yuji's response. A lot of people are interpreting this as Yuji saying, hey man, if you want to go away forever, that's okay. That's not what he's saying. What he's saying is, I don't have the right to tell you not to do that. He's not saying that he should go do it, but he's saying, I can't be the one to tell you to do that. It's two very different things. It's a small but important difference that I think a lot of people are overlooking. That's not a weakness of the chapter. I just think it's done in a nuanced way, to the extent that because he doesn't explicitly come out and say that, people are sort of reading into it, and I think it's creating misinterpretations. Then again, it's a story. You can read it however you want. I'm praying for my boy Yuta. Yeah, I don't know. It's not looking great for Yuta. Then again, it is a Jump series. It is shonen. We could see some bullshit. Transition makes sense. Remember, One Piece chapter ends with... Okay. What does One Piece have to do with JJK? One Piece chapter ends with Kizaru arriving on Egghead Island, and next chapter is yapping and ends with... That's a totally unrelated example. What I'm saying is, forget everything else. Let's just use common sense here. So, JJK 255 or 265. The last panel. I take that back. So, actually, I take that back. You know what? Ladies and gentlemen, you can mark this down as an OGL. This is due to my meathead brain. I just realized. So if you go to pages 18-19 of chapter 265, Yuji says, "That's right, Sukuna. I can kill you. Free Fushiguro." So that's the key phrase here. Is we have Yuji talking about Fushiguro being freed. All right. Then we have the Sukuna response. And immediately after the Sukuna response in 266 is we cut to Megumi saying, "You've done enough." So it's sort of a, hey, I want Fushiguro back. Sukuna says, eat my shorts. And then it cuts to Megumi cutting in now, saying, look, you don't have to do that. So in that sense, it's actually a much better transition than what I initially felt. Again, I did have to sort of go back and be like, did I miss something? Gojo legit taught Sukuna his best move, the brain healing technique, and now he keeps using it against his students. Yeah, that's kind of Sukuna's thing, stealing people's moves. It's kind of like Goku. Yeah, but I think this was a great chapter. It had a lot going on, and it's, at the very least, great for generating conversation. OG signing the gay apology. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I kind of like to binge things. I love the weekly experience of manga and sort of being surprised and doing things like this where you interact with the community and the community kind of consumes it together collectively. But at the same time, it creates issues like this. On that note, let's read some One Piece. Now, this I have also read already, but I do want to go over it with everyone. All right, so for anyone who has not read One Piece 1123, The Void Fortnight, and does not want to be spoiled, that's what we're doing right now. One Piece this week is great. Yeah, I would agree. I thought this was a good chapter. So we open up to the next part of Yamato's adventure, and she's eating Odin with what's his name and a bunch of the kids that were bullying her. So I think this is pretty cool. It is sort of reminiscent of Odin's journey because, I mean, what did he do every other chapter? He ate Odin, and now Yamato's eating Odin. So we turn to the chapter. They're escaping Egghead. All the Marines are messed up. We have the Boa clone saying that the Straw Hats are getting away. Everyone's all beat up. We have the giant pirates saying like, oh, looks like we're gonna get away with this. And now they're saying set sail to Elbaf. So if there were any doubts, then this pretty much confirms that the next arc is going to be Elbaf. So to any Denjiro, thank you. So to any doubters out there that said that, you know, Oda's going to skip Elbaf or Oda forgot about Elbaf, it's happening. So then we have Bonnie. Is Bonnie hugging somebody or is she just sort of sleeping? I think she's just sleeping. I don't know. We have Zoro sort of sighing out of relief. We have Usopp losing his mind because he's finally back with Dory and Brogy. We see Luffy, and again, he's all zapped out because of Gear 5th. And now we cut to Sanji. What you said back there doesn't sit right with me. Was this what you wanted, Vegapunk? Was it? I couldn't hear everything, but you said some pretty outrageous stuff. So they have... Remind me, everyone in chat, is Vegapunk, like, officially dead? Because they have his body. Or is that... No, so that's Stella, and then they have the main brain, right? Yeah, I'm glad Egghead is over. Not that I hated the arc. I love this arc, but I think it was just long enough. For sort of a transition arc, it was getting a bit long. So then we get to an interesting part of the chapter where they explain how Vegapunk was able to accomplish this. And basically, they get data reports saying that someone's been sharing the mother flame that they have with the world government, and they figure out, based on the signals and the transmissions, that it's York. So I forget which one number 1 is, but he's talking about the Seraphim and blah, 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 blah. The amount of energy expenditure on the Seraphim has been inching upward, I see. If that's a mistake, it's a grave one. The response rate is rising, but the power plant remains stable. This means that the data is evidence that someone has stolen some of the mother flame. So basically, someone was giving away the mother flame to power the Seraphim, but they were doing it so that Vegapunk wouldn't notice that they gave it away. Number 1 is Shaka. Okay, thank you. Yeah, he's dead, but some people are kind of not certain yet. Well, that's the thing, is he's got the main brain, right, on Egghead. So he's not quite dead, right? I wish Viz kept the name at Elbath and not Elbath. Yeah, it is kind of weird that they do it like that, but it is what it is. It's just different takes on the translation. The One Piece translations are a bit wonky at times. Oh, I see. Elbath is Fable backwards. So yeah, it just kind of ruined that. So anyway, they figure out using science that it was York all along. So then they develop this plan where they're going to make the transmission that we just all saw. But to do the transmission and plant it, they have to wipe out some of their memories. So basically, they're going to plant the transmission, and then once it's uploaded, they won't remember what they did. And then they leave a note. So it kind of explains sort of how they were prepared to do this. And it gives context to Vegapunk's motivation in this moment, because he knows he's going to get killed by the world government. So rather than do nothing or run away, he decides to make it blow up in their face, which I think is a great character moment for Vegapunk, because while he's been aiding the world government for the entire story, this defining moment shows that when push comes to shove, he's on the side of the people, not the world government. He was only working for the world government for the backup and the money and the resources. But we do get an insight on when they wiped out that planet 6 days ago. They say the kingdom of Leloucha is gone. The details are unclear as of yet, but it can only be an omen. So they're talking about that and the Mother Flame. She must have used the Sea Beast weapons to transport it to the government. Another thing they mention, where is it? Cloud plant. There's one thing we cannot afford to lose. The cloud plant that produces island clouds might be the foundation of humanity's survival, which makes sense because Vegapunk just explained that the world government is able to flood the planet. So he has the technology to make clouds that people can live on. So then it cuts to present time again. And Vegapunk, the Stella, says, I want you to know, though we're going down to save Bonnie, I intend to remain down here. Sanji's like, yeah, but you'll die. And he says, don't save me. Just leave me there to perish. He says, certainly not, but I feel like my death might cause something to happen. And then it closes with Vegapunk saying, I want you guys, so the Straw Hats, to be the ones to find the One Piece. And then from there, we get the giant pirates and a toast to reuniting with old friends, onward to Elbaf. And then I feel like we see some characters. Can we zoom in? So we have Dory and Brogy, and I can't remember which one is which, but Chopper is, at least it seems like Chopper, he's hanging out in their beard, which, and then they're holding Luffy. I just realized they're holding Luffy up, even though he's still zapped out. So I thought this was a solid One Piece chapter. It's mostly like a lot of context, but it is a good character moment for Vegapunk. It explicitly says, it explicitly confirms we're going to Elbaf. Throw Sanji in the mix for some reason, because now it's on Sanji, I guess, that, you know, Vegapunk did what he did in a way, because Sanji could have done something. I don't know. Agenda piece potential, I guess. If you don't like Sanji, this was fuel for the anti-Sanji agenda, I guess. Who knows? But what did you guys think? How did we feel about the chapter? The Gorosei basically asked the question about what is death for Vegapunk if the brain still functions. So some people think Oda will still pull the fake out death card from what I've heard. Well, that's the thing, is if the brain is still there, then he hasn't really died. That's what I'm saying. Because if the brain is still there and the brain is like the nexus, then I feel like he's not technically dead. I don't know. One Piece is weird about deaths anyway. So, how do we feel about Egghead overall now that it's seemingly over? I mean, it's basically over, but there might be like 1 or 2 more chapters. I will say this. I am concerned about the length of the series at this point, because it is my sincere hope, and you can quote me on this, it is my sincere hope that Elbaf is, you know, a thorough arc, a good arc, you know, whatever, 50 to 100 chapters, and then after Elbaf, final arc and we're done. At this point, everything's been explored. We can finally move on. We need endgame. We need finality for this series. This series it's on 106 volumes, going into 107 volumes, 108 volumes. So, I mean, by the time it's done, it's going to have like, you know, 130 plus volumes. That's crazy. I mean, even Bleach, I was just rereading Bleach. Bleach is a long ass series. And that's like what, 700 chapters? By the time One Piece is done, it will be double that, which is crazy. That's insane. Did I enjoy Egghead as a whole? I really like this arc. It's not exactly, you know, like my all-time favorite arc, but it was a great follow-up from Wano, where everyone was kind of feeling not so great at the end of Wano. It was nice to get an arc like Egghead, because when everyone was kind of doubting where One Piece was headed, I feel like Egghead did a lot of things right. It wasn't a perfect arc for sure, but it did a lot more great things than not so great things. And it had a lot of great character moments too. And it had a lot of hype moments. You know, obviously, as you can see with these chapters being animated in the anime and people flipping out, like the Garp fight. So overall, I think this is a good arc. I'd give it like a 7. Excuse me. People are still recovering from Wano. Yeah. I mean, reasonably so. Wano was what, like a 5-year experience? 3 years? 4 years? Wano was huge. And, you know, for all of that time, for it to be like an okay arc when it was supposed to be like the undoubtable, like unequivocal best arc of One Piece up to that point, it was a heavy moment for One Piece fans. 5 years. Yeah, 5 years just for the arc to be like a 7. I will say the pacing post Wano is really going well so far, because if we kind of place this in context, we had a huge experience like we were just talking about with Wano. So then we cut away from there to Egghead. And of course, before Egghead, we had sort of a world events update for however many chapters. So I think Oda handled transitioning from Wano really well. And now he's pivoting from Egghead immediately into an arc that we've all been waiting for, but at the same time, you know, isn't exactly like super high stakes. Like, not as high stakes as Wano, because going into Wano, we're like, all right, we gotta fight Kaido, we gotta save the people of Wano, we gotta fight the Shogun of Wano. Going into Elbaf, it's like, oh hey, cool, we're going to all the giant stuff. Like, we're gonna go see the giants, right? Like, there's stuff going on with the Poneglyph, obviously, and there's gonna be other mysteries, but really, like, it's just gonna be a fun arc in the beginning. Mikey, no. I don't do drugs, and I certainly do not use copium. So if you want to go find a stream where drug use and drug abuse is praised, then you can go do that. But I don't deal in copium. I'm sorry. I was raised in a good, wholesome home where we don't use drugs. Of course, now I'm drinking my water and I'm getting it all over the place. That's always fun. He said no. Hey man, you got me on tape. You got me in 4K. Well, I'm not streaming in 4K, but you got me in 1080p. It's some good stuff. You should try some copium. Bro, you know what? I've had my weaknesses. I've had my fallbacks. I've had my relapses. What's after Elbaf, I wonder? I pray to 8-pound 6-ounce baby Jesus that it's Paramount War 2. I hope it's the final arc. I love One Piece, but it needs to end. And you can quote me on that. One Piece, it's getting long. And I know that's a weird statement, but in the grand scheme of people saying One Piece is too long and blah, 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 it's definitely getting there. Anyway, I am sort of curious about... Now, obviously, I say they're setting up Elbaf to be like, oh, it's all fun and games, and we're just going to go on adventures, and it's going to be fantasy, and this and that. You know damn well there's going to be some bullshit in Elbaf. You know damn well there's going to be some bullshit with poneglyphs and Big Mom and the Prince of Elbaf and all this other horse shit. So, you know, prediction in the fan base is that it ends around 2030, 2032. That's disgusting. So that's, if we get 50 chapters a year, right? Just to have an even number. So it's 2024. So, wait a minute. We're going to get September, October, November, December. 4 times 4 is 16. So that brings us to 30. So, like, we'll call it 1140 chapters, right? So 4 years would be 200 chapters. So that'd be like almost 400 chapters. That's crazy. To think that One Piece is almost going to be like 1,500 chapters is cool and exciting, but also disgusting. That's gross. And I mean that in the best way possible. We get about 35 a year? Is it really 35? I know One Piece takes a lot of breaks, but is it really just 35? Anyway, feel free to share your theories about what's going to happen in Elbaf. Let's see. We'll probably wrap things up. We'll read one more chapter. Where am I with Akane Banashi? Am I caught up? Ooh, I don't think so. Wait a minute. Nope, I'm definitely behind. Okay. Let's see. Well, I'll leave it up to chat. Let's do this. What do you guys want to read for the last manga before we end things? Kagurabachi. I guarantee you someone one day is going to binge the whole series when it ends. I mean, everyone's going to do it. It's not who is going to do it. Everyone's going to do it. That's just a silly thing to say. I mean, people do it now. People read the series 5 times, take a break, and then they're like, yeah, I think I'll reread One Piece for like the 20th time. One thing I hope doesn't happen in Elbaf is the Usopp magical Thor hammer theory. Yeah, that's stupid. I don't even know what that is, and it already sounds asinine. Just more One Piece fandom bullshit. All right, final round. What do people want to read? All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What do we got? You guys are uncultured swine. Not a single person voted for Akane Banashi. That's all right. I am glad that somebody voted for Astro Royale. I thought it was going to be the other way around. Glad to see people have some enthusiasm for that series. Imagine the One Piece remake catches up to where the anime is at. I don't think that's really their goal with the remake. I think they're just kind of adapting East Blue. East Blue and potentially Alabasta. But we'll see. Anyway, let's read some Kagurabachi. Keep in mind, this is the people's stream. The people have voted. So it appears as though I am a few chapters behind. So I'm on chapter 42 of Kagurabachi. Chapter 42, Everything. And more so than JJK, I cannot keep any of the names straight in Kagurabachi, so bear with me. There's going to be some Luffy-isms here where I just kind of talk about everybody by their haircuts. Oh no, I guess I did read this chapter. Or did I? Maybe I didn't. Pretty sure I did. Yeah, I did read this chapter. Just kidding. I'm on chapter 43. Oopsies. So we got an interesting character moment for the villain of this arc. We get a flashback to him visiting his sick wife. This whole time I've been miserable, so now I might as well be honest. You're so brainwashed by all this sacred tradition stuff. They wouldn't have made me marry you if not for the Rakuzaichi. If it never took place, then you might not have become such a bad person. But of course, you know, as he's having his doubts, he comes back to it and he's like, yeah, I'm going to defend it. Yeah, I am definitely due for a Kagurabachi reread because I feel like there's a lot of stuff I'm sort of missing when I read this arc. Because I read the first 20 chapters, then I took a break, then I came back to it and caught up, and a lot of the stuff going on, because there's all the different factions, and of course they have all the Japanese names, so it's kind of hard to keep them straight. And you know, when you can't keep the factions straight and you don't have that context and that all doesn't make sense. So like, this was a decent arc, but I feel like I'll like it better when I kind of binge the whole series. But anyway, the auction event is falling to pieces in chapter 44. So he made a deal, Chihiro, to give the sword away that they just fought over, which I guess isn't the worst thing in the world. Yeah, we have the Kamunabi, we have the Shaku, we have the Shinuchi. There's a lot to keep track of. There's a lot of moving parts in Kagurabachi, which is not a bad thing. It's more of a reading literacy thing. And then I remember this was the moment that people were kind of freaking out about on Twitter. Somebody said something like, it doesn't make sense for Chihiro to, quote, join the magic police. And I remember replying to that, and I was like, well, that's stupid. Why does every character have to be edgy and like anti-establishment, vigilante, this and that? Why do they have to be a dark, real, psychological protagonist? It's like, let people do things. What's the current chapter? 45. All right, so this will be the last one. So Chihiro requests to join the Kabunabi, which, as I explained, are essentially the magic police. I will say in the last couple of chapters, I like what they're doing with Hakuri. I like how they ended his arc in this arc, and I like how they established his motivation going forward instead of just sort of like leaving it up like, oh, well, you know, I'm a good guy, so I guess I'll fight with the good guys now. Like, he does have a personal motivation that I really like. Yeah, I definitely like the direction the story is taking, and now we have sort of a new character arc for Chihiro, where, you know, he's not just chasing the villains again. Like, we do have sort of a new direction for the story that seems like it's not going to be too long, but it is a nice challenge for his character. So Kagurabachi is developing quite nicely, and to anyone who thinks it's a meme, they are very out of touch. OG, I wanted to ask you, Are you glad Dr. Stone anime will be 3 cores? I was nervous they were going to rush it. Now I'm a little more optimistic about it. Yeah, I think depending on how they pace it, I think it'll be okay. Excuse me. Everything after South America happens pretty fast, so I can imagine that happening in like 5 episodes, 6 episodes. But they definitely got to pace North America and South America very well, because those are arguably the best arcs of the series. So if they F that up, then I'm going to be painfully disappointed. But on that note, I have been very happy with all the Jump chapters this week. JJK was great, although it showed me that I need to go back and reread the series. One Piece was good. I'm excited to be getting into Elbaf, and Kagurabachi is heading into a nice direction, and now I have another series I need to reread. On that note, thank you again to everybody who showed up to the stream. We had a great turnout as always. Great discussion for the JJK chapter and for everything else. Like I said yesterday, the next stream will be on Tuesday to talk about Chainsaw Man and hopefully Dawn to Dawn, although we haven't heard anything yet, so it's looking like just Chainsaw Man. But on that note, thank you everyone, as always, and I hope to hear from you